Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Natural Parenting Talk with Lauren and Keema. And as you can see, we are changing our format just a little bit. In addition to watching our show here on Facebook Live, we have changed to a podcast format, and all of our shows will be now found on PodBean. We are also changing the time of our show from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time each Monday. So each show will just be an hour instead of two. So make sure that you mark that change. Anyway, Natural Parenting Talk with Lauren and Keema is all about natural parenting, natural living, and a whole lot extra. And of course, we are your hosts, Lauren and Keema. Please chime into the conversation with your comments below, or please chime in with your conversations in the comments below. Unfortunately, we do not have the Skype call in feature just yet. We will next week. We've done a lot of transitions and things like that. So you will be able to call in next week. But for now, if you could just leave your comments in the Facebook Live. So Black Breastfeeding Week started on Saturday, and Crunchy Boutique hosted a Black Breastfeeding Week forum and luncheon, which went really, really well.
It really did.
The response that we got was really great. It was a standing room only event, and just a really great conversation. I think last year we had a great participation as well, but I think it was more so birth workers, but we had a lot more moms at this event.
Which it was hard to tell the numbers
Yeah.
between last year and this year, but then it came up on my time hop yesterday, and I saw that we had doubled the number this year that we did last year. So it was cool.
Yeah, and it was nice having all the moms here because, of course, you get a different perspective. When we talk about, the question was, how do we reach the broader Black community in regards to raising breastfeeding numbers? Because we know that breastfeeding is one of the links to improving the Black infant mortality rate and Black maternal mortality rate. So it was great hearing perspectives from them. We want to continue talking about breastfeeding today, and we are so thrilled to welcome today's guest and our friend, Sydney Tilger.
Yay! Welcome, Sydney.
Thank you.
Sydney is a lifelong educator and learner who spends her days focused on family and her nights teaching. While Sydney focused on preparing for childbirth while pregnant, she quickly found out afterwards that breastfeeding doesn't come as naturally as she expected. After lactation consultants, surgery, and midwife appointments, Sydney's breastfeeding journey is 10 months strong with no signs of stopping. So, Sydney is currently launching her own blog to discuss her transition from mainstream life, working 60 plus hours a week, to a more natural lifestyle while being home with her daughter. Sydney is also creating a mom group to target women of color in the DFW area. So welcome, Sydney.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being
coming
here.
and coming to our inaugural show now that we've done our transition.
And we're still working out some kinks. I see that Bianca said that her video is frozen. So please, if anybody else is having any issues, let us know. Like I said, we're trying to work things out as we transition to a new location. So just please provide any feedback. And I see some lights and things like that. So I'm hoping that means that the video is rolling along. But let us know, y'all. Let us know.
All right. So we'll jump right in. So how did you decide to breastfeed?
Well, I thought it was the thing I had to do. I mean, at the beginning, it would just seem like the next step. After a lot that brought me to having a natural or a home birth, it just seemed like, well, breastfeeding's the next thing I do. Why not? That's what I'm made to do. My mom breastfed, my aunts breastfed.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you. So you grew up around women breastfeeding.
Exactly. And what's so funny is that, I'm the youngest of three, and my mom breastfed both of my brother and sister for a elongated time while I was only 2 months. But we found out, like, after dealing with what we dealt with my daughter, is that it was because I had a lip and tongue tie our journey stopped short.
Did she know that at that time?
No, this is like news of January 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so we started figuring out after my girl went through it, like, well, that's probably what did it, because the doctor looked at me and said, yes, you have a lip and tongue tie. And it's that's why it stopped. And my mom said, I just refused. And so I just thought, breastfeeding, I'm going to do it. And then she was born.
So tell us how your journey has been.
I mean, wow. I ended up having a home birth, and that was wonderful.
Actually, this I know it's not about this. This show isn't about home water birth, but it's interesting though. So just give us a little bit about what that was like before we talk about breastfeeding.
Amazing. I mean, it from start to finish, and I always tell people start to finish. That means like the first real contraction to the time she was out was 20 hours, which I don't think is a lot. But I did stall for 4 of those hours. But I mean, I had a phenomenal midwifery team. I loved those women. It was the most comfortable thing ever. I felt.
You can give them a shout out.
Oh, Family Birth Services in Grand Prairie. Love them. Shout out to Tess and April and Esther and Becky. Those are my girls. Yes. I mean, really, it was wonderful. If you can do it, do it. And I feel like now that I've done it, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it again and again and again.
Yeah. So, how many times?
Oh, don't count. But yeah, it was just amazing, really. And so after she was born on the chest, we waited for the placenta, and then they said, okay, feed her. And I actually have a picture of this moment, and it's like, one, I'm exhausted. My midwife is as exhausted as me, I'm sure. And my daughter's feeding, and I'm like, I did nothing.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what I'm doing. And she was there for 45 minutes or so, and that was it. And then that night, or I want to say 2 nights later, my husband and I were like on the app. We'll say every time she had a wet diaper, every time she,
I remember you did that too. Brandon did the same thing.
Yeah. So you get it. And he would always time, what breast is she on, time it. And at that point, her latch had become awful, and we were both just, and every time, like my husband, he knew when she latched because I go, okay. And I thought, I guess this is normal. I guess this is what I do. Like, she's on, it's okay. But, started dealing with the troubles. And I have to say, I was privileged enough to have hired a belly binder who was a lactation consultant. And she was coming in on that 3rd day. And on that 3rd day, after she binded me, she showed me, a better latch. And she said, I'm going to check for a lip and tongue tie. I said, okay. She goes in there and she's like, yeah, she has a stage 4 and this and this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, don't tell me there's something wrong with my daughter. Like, what did I do? Because, unfortunately, not everybody was in pro home birth. And so I'm nervous that because of what I did, I've flawed my daughter. So at that point, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, I don't think I can do anything about it. The latch is better. It doesn't hurt anymore. We're good. So, at that point I was like, okay, well, it doesn't have to hurt to breastfeed, which is a huge misconception is that, it hurts and you can do it. You just have to persevere. And it's like, no, fix the latch or fix something. Or don't be stubborn like I was, because right before I actually went back to work in January, I was really in between. And after some thoughts, I went back. And that, I think a week before I went back to work, she started getting really frustrated every time she was at the breast. And so I kept thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because she's 10 weeks. I'm not stopping now. And at that point too, I had started reading The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. And so I was reading through that bad boy. It's like 1,000 pages long. And, every night or every moment I had that I wasn't with her or trying to sleep myself, I was reading it. And I just started gaining more knowledge about the benefits of breastfeeding. So I was very persistent. One of my friends, she had just had the revision surgery on her daughter and said, she was doing well, but this was happening. And so many of the signs started leading up. And so I was reading about it, but I was still nervous. Like, oh my goodness, I did this to her. I can't tell people about this, or, will people understand? And so that Sunday, I think the realization hit that, she's about to be on the bottle, 80% of the day. What can I do to ensure that when I'm home, I can breastfeed? Because pumping is not easy. Like, I can do it. But if I can just have her at the breast when I'm at home, let me do that. Well, Monday morning hits and I just call the doctor and I'm like, hey, I think this is going on. And they're like, well, we can do a consultation. It's free. You just come in and we'll talk about it. And I'm just a nervous mess. And I'm like reading all these articles and Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. Right. And finally, she says, well, you want to come in today? And I was like, well, it's my first day back at work, but I don't have kids yet. So yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So I call my husband, I call the babysitter, and I'm like, hey guys, you want to meet me at the doctor's office? Because we're going to go get this checked out. Mm-hmm. Get it checked out. Everything that the lactation consultant that said on day 3 was still the same at week 10. Mm-hmm. And the doctor says, what do you want to do? Do you want to get this revision done? Mm-hmm. We can do it now. You can come back. And all I'm thinking is
now, like that day.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'd been in the office for maybe 10 minutes at that moment. Mm-hmm. They had already done the pictures. It's really it's high tech now.
So how do they do it? How do they do the revision?
So they have like this really small, the camera is probably the size of my pinky. They just put the camera underneath the tongue and then underneath the lip. They take the pictures and then they decide, okay, it is a lip tie. There's different stages and stuff. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you to save your life because at that moment I'm like, I'm back at work. I need her to be able to breastfeed, right. And I'm also thinking about like myself because, like I said, my mom and we stopped our relationship at 2 months, mm-hmm. our breastfeeding relationship at 2 months. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's hitting that spot. And so like, what am I going to do? So I don't know what they were saying, but the procedure ends up being a laser that basically just cuts that piece of skin underneath your tongue and also appear underneath your lip. Mm-hmm. And it's tough.
Okay.
Did they numb it? Local, lidocaine or something of that mm-hmm. sort. And it's worth it.
Yeah.
But they put her in one of those swaddles that zips up. They have like these little alien, the minion glasses, mm-hmm. like basically that. Yeah. And my husband held her while they did it because they just do it. Like think of a dentist office in the chair, you're laying down. Well, baby's not, of course, laying down, but husband is and holding her in the arms as you smell burning flesh. Oh, and so it was hard. It was hard.
Did she cry?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because one, you're swaddled, so I'm not even sure that she felt the pain at that point. Right. But I think overall it was just the whole situation.
That's a lot. Mm-hmm.
They're 10 weeks old. They're still trying to figure out left from right. What are we doing?
That's what's going
Why
on.
am I here?
Uh-huh.
So it was hard. And I went back to work. My husband went back to work and she went with the babysitter. And they tell us about these stretches. You have to do the stretches. And depending on the type of severity of the tie, more frequently. And we had to do it the most frequent every 2 hours for 2 weeks. And at the 1 week post-op, everything looked great. We ended up getting chiropractic care as well because mm-hmm. that really matters. Because, even as adults, like all the tension that sits in here mm-hmm. when they're breastfeeding, they may favor one side because it's all knotted up, mm-hmm. but you also have to loosen all the muscles in there. And on top of doing all that, it was just stressful. But I admittedly, because we had to do it through the night, I slowed down on the stretches, which if you are doing this to your child, do not slow down on the stretches because when we went back for that 3-week post-op, Dr. Thomas said, we're going to have to do it again.
Oh no.
Talk about mom guilt. I've never felt it to that extreme ever since because I thought, I'm doing this for my sanity. I need sleep. She needs sleep. Mm-hmm. These stretches are not fun, but we need to breastfeed. And so mm-hmm. it was hard, but she said, you're going to have to do it again. I'm driving home crying, calling my husband, telling him all about it. He meets me and we try to calm down and a whole lot of prayer. And we went to the chiropractor mm-hmm. and we went back and we were actually supposed to get the revision done again on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
And we went and she said, she took the pictures again and everything and said, I don't know what happened, but we don't have to do it. It's relinquished.
You guys were praying.
Look, that was the most fervent prayer I had ever prayed before.
Work a miracle, Lord.
Look, because you know, it is so worth it because there are other benefits. Now, I'm not a doctor or anything, but there are other benefits as far as like, you know, sleeping. There's the benefits as speech goes. And I know that I've overcome the speech impediments, but like my nephew, I looked at him and I know that he has a lip and tongue tie and he had to go through intensive speech therapy for years and braces and everything else. So it wasn't just about the breastfeeding relationship, even though I value that greatly. And I want to go as far as I can with her. But there were so many other benefits to it that I personally did not see any other option. And I saw that it's benefited her already. Even like eating, I do baby-led weaning. And so they say even with the textures and everything else that if you have a lip and tongue tie or it can also lead to some problems.
Right. Wow. Well, I know you're glad now that it's all over with.
Yeah.
Yes. 4 weeks of stuff, but we made it.
Wow.
We made it.
So why do you personally think that Black Breastfeeding Week is so important, or what does it mean to you?
Everything. I mean, you know, I little side bit, but you know, I'm starting this blog and like my name starts with Black because I'm a faithful believer in Christ. You know, I know he's died for my sins, but unfortunately when I'm walking down the street or when I'm talking to someone, they don't see that I'm a Christian first. They see that I'm Black. And so that has shaped a lot of my identity, the way that I go about things, and it also shapes how people respond to me. And because of that, I've been able to watch if I didn't mention it, I was a teacher. I am still a teacher. I'm not a brick and mortar teacher anymore, but I've watched multiple former students get pregnant, and I'll follow them because I really genuinely care. I want to see how things are going. And something I'll always ask is, how's breastfeeding going? And typically what I'm finding is that if they are of color, if they are Black, that the rates are just abysmal. You know, when they're in the hospital, the first thing they do is hand them that can of formula. And while that seems freeing and, oh yes, it's, you know, great. I have formula, it's easy. I don't have to work through the pain. They're just not approaching it. I don't feel like healthcare workers are approaching it from the right lens. Now, I'm not going to say that they're all terrible and racist and they're coming after the Black folk, but Breastfeeding Week matters because is there really a space for us in the other places? And I'm not saying that to dig on others, but think of it this way. The world is set up for right-handed people. You target right-handed people, but there are left-handers out there. You know, my dad's a left-hander, and he used to, you know, brag on some things about that, right? I think that sometimes what happens in our society is that we'll have like breastfeeding times, the big latch and stuff like that, but it doesn't target or support Black women. And I think that we have to change the lens on that and like have healthcare workers think of it, and not just those in like hospitals, but midwives, doulas, think about what it means to be Black, especially in America, and breastfeeding. We talked about it on Saturday, is like there's a long history of apprehension, you know, being wet nurses, or you know, your baby gets left to the side, or being, you know, breast being over sexualized. And so I feel like this week is freeing for women of color to, one, say, yes, I breastfeed, or I don't breastfeed, but I want to know more, or just to make people think about it, you know, just, okay, why is that a problem? Because I know like on your events, and I've seen on social media is time and time again, there's like the top 5 reasons you should Black Breastfeeding Week needs to exist.
It's so interesting that we have to explain why there's a need for it. I love your analogy about the world being geared toward right-handed people, because it's the same thing, and you don't think about it. And I think people often think, oh, here they go again, talking about race. Race doesn't matter. Breastfeeding is breastfeeding. Well, yeah, breastfeeding is breastfeeding if everybody you look at looks like you.
Yes.
But for us, and we say it every single week, representation matters.
Yes.
You see yourself all the time, you know, the majority, they see themselves all the time, everywhere. They don't have to think about it. But when we see somebody look like us, we're like, whoa, wait a minute. Is that geared toward us? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just get excited, like, you know, Black person, yes, okay. You know, like, it happens sometimes in different spaces that, you know, especially being a mom, it's like, I'm going to put myself out there. I want community. I want things for my daughter. But when I see there's a Black person, I just get excited.
Because it makes us feel like it is for us also,
Yes.
which was so refreshing having the conversations we did on Saturday.
Yeah.
And the women that were in the room who talked about the struggles that they've gone through and things like that in breastfeeding, but just being happy to have some support,
Yes.
because they just need, they need to see somebody that looks like them doing what they're doing,
Yes.
saying, we can do it together.
Yes.
We can encourage each other. Not to say you can't get encouragement from other groups,
Of course.
but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I think we talked about this before too. We talk a little differently. We have different frames of reference, things like
Culture.
that. Yeah, our culture is just different. We like somebody said, we have inside jokes that we
right. Like you may have never met this person before, but there's just a couple of things, and it's like you get it, And sometimes that's just. It's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah. So representation definitely matters. I know I say this all the time too, where breastfeeding is concerned. I feel like I missed out, and it just saddens me every time I think about it, because I did not breastfeed Brandon and Lauren. It never occurred to me. I was one of those people, as soon as I, had them, they came right in with a bottle of formula, here you go. And I never even considered, I never thought about it. My mother didn't talk about it. My grandmother didn't talk about it. Nobody in my family ever talked about breastfeeding, ever. I mean, we never had one conversation about it. So now that I look at Lauren breastfeeding, and I keep saying I'm living vicariously through her in that, or you or anybody breastfeeding, I'm just looking like, wow, what does that feel like? I wonder what that's like. I really feel like I missed out. It's sad on one hand, but on the other hand, that's the fuel for me being so much more of an advocate.
Oh, yeah.
And to the point where it's almost, I'm almost beating folks over the head with it. Like, I'm trying to back up a little bit, make your own choice.
Of course.
If you need to do formula, that's fine. But in my mind, I'm thinking, no, you're going to do this.
Education. Yeah. I feel like if you're educated in it, you're more likely to do it. I mean, like, that's like my whole life purpose though, is just is education, access to it, because I feel like there are limitations and barriers, especially for those like in lower socioeconomic status areas, where I taught, a lot of those kids are going to the local hospitals, or they're going to the hospitals that will serve those like that. And the problem that I always saw was that, I'd ask them like, hey, did a lactation consultant come by? No, they're all in a conference. There's no one here. Or she came by for 10 minutes, but I'm not sure I understood. And so even though these hospitals are, supposed to be promoting breastfeeding, they're not necessarily doing it. Or if they are, they'll give them excuses. I met someone when I was in Ohio last week, they were told that they had a low milk supply. And while I think that is true, I think it's not true for many. I think it's like a 1%er thing. But so many times when I'm talking to people, they're like, oh, I had a low supply. And, she was a woman of color. She was in the hospital for days because she had preeclampsia. Preeclampsia. There you go. You got it, right? And, but she got it postpartum. And so that really, really hindered their breastfeeding relationship. But also when she was there, what did they do? They promoted the formula. And, she's not wrong in that sense. I don't know what I would do if I had to go through that trauma, especially postpartum. You're already dealing with enough. So just education and actually give informed consent. Informed consent, that goes with a lot of things. But
I definitely agree with education, especially with the low milk supply, because time and time again you always hear that. I mean, I've heard it from my sister-in-law with I think it was her second baby. So many women.
Well, you were told that too.
Yeah, and I was told that with August. I was seeing I'll call him a mainstream OB, or not OB, pediatrician. I've switched since then, but anyway, he asked me how much am I able to pump, and I said, okay, like 1 ounce. I don't know. Like, you know, like 1
Right.
ounce.
Well, it was an unfair question because she's
Yeah.
not pumping. So
Right.
no, his question was how much is he eating
Well,
or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
His first question was how much is he eating,
Oh,
and
wow.
I love this meme that you see, and it says my doctor asked me how much is my child eating. And it's like, I don't know, a bootful.
Right.
I don't know. That's such a weird question.
The boobs fly
but-
afterwards.
Yeah, he did advise that I start pumping, so I would pump, and I was only able to pump maybe 1 ounce, 2 ounces on like a really good day, and that's when I'm like, whoa, I got a lot of milk today. And he told me, okay, well, your baby's not getting enough. And you know, if you tell a new mom,
Mhm.
you know, that she's not enough for her child, she's not able to feed her child adequately, and all that. I mean, I'm just in tears, you know, the guilt, like, oh my gosh, it's all on me. I don't want to give him formula, but they're telling me that he's starving, and he would say things like, well, he needs to be at this point by the next appointment, where we're, you know, gonna say he's like a failure to thrive and all these things. And he was really low on the chart. And because I was so adamant about breastfeeding, and I'm just a researching kind of person anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So, you know, I went online, I did all this research and stuff, and it's like, this doesn't feel right. I mean, from what I've read, the data that I've looked at and all that, you can't go by how much you're able to pump. I mean,
Yes.
when you pump, you're literally tricking your body into thinking your baby's on you.
Exactly.
And my body's like, this is not a baby.
Right.
So,
No.
Other moms might be able to trick their boobs, but you can't trick me.
yeah, so it never worked. I mean, we always had the so-called correct number of wet and poopy diapers. I mean, he seemed fine. He was never lethargic. He never had the sunken
Right.
spot right here that they say, you know, everything was fine. So I'm like, there's no issue. We're
Right.
making an issue when there's not an issue.
Right.
And had I not been the way that I am, I would have switched a long time ago, because a lot of moms, all you have to say is, your baby is starving, your baby's hungry. Okay, let's switch.
Right.
Because that's such an emotional thing. You
Yes.
never want to put your child through any kind of situation like that. So if you lead with that, oh, it's done.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And people hear that time and time again, and you know, and I think so many times, like, we want to believe those who have gone to school for this, or you know, like I'll say, gone to medical school, right? Because I'm not sure they're getting adequate information about breastfeeding. But I firmly believe that most people want to believe their doctors. They want to abide by what they're saying. You're trusting this person to have your better interest in mind and not anything else.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that from someone of authority, you're thinking, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do
But I'll
it.
tell you, being in this natural parenting community and hearing the things that mainstream doctors say, and having witnessed the things that Lauren has gone through, I will say, and I don't know if I should be ashamed of this or not, but I'm very leery of anything that a mainstream doctor says now. I mean, I'm researching and I'm double checking and I'm looking for something natural to try first and all that. And it's crazy. I'm everything they say, I'm looking at it with the side. I like, I'm not sure if you have my best interest at heart.
Right.
Which is so sad, because when you know, look at what you know, the medical field says about so many different things, and it's like, you know, for example, the medical fields, their perspective on chiropractic care.
Right.
And there was a news report a couple days ago, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but there was a news report a couple days ago that said coconut oil is poison.
I read that too. But it's so interesting.
Well,
it's like, whoa.
Because I rubber down with that every night.
But you read stuff like that, and it's like, oh my gosh. But then you dig a little bit deeper, and you see, okay, who's giving money to these?
Yeah, what was your motivation? What was your motivation
for the publication? Who sponsored the publication? And it's like, oh, okay.
But that's the kind of research you have to do. And I'm definitely not saying one thing is right over another.
Right.
I'm just saying everybody needs to be
informed
to make an educated decision for what's right for you and your family.
Oh yeah.
And the wonderful thing about being in this natural parenting community is that I think we've taken that power back. You know, I will definitely still go to a regular doctor, but there's a need for them. We have to. But I'm still going to do a lot of research. I'm ask a lot of questions, and I'm not taking everything you say at face value. And the interesting thing about that is I've had asthma all my life, but there was a period of time that was terrible. I was going to ICU like once a quarter. I was always in the hospital. It was terrible. But my mother was always with me. and she had something written down with every medication I took and everything that they needed to do to get me better quickly because I was always going by ambulance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she would get in arguments with the doctors and everything. They'd want to do A, and she'd say, no, you need to do B.
Right.
And she was about to fight with them. And thinking back now, she was ahead of her time, you know, as far as I'm concerned, because more parents are like that now, you know, fighting for what they know is right. But my mother back then was like, no, this is what you need to do for her, and you need to do it right now.
Yeah.
But more parents need to be that way today.
Yeah, which can be scary because you feel like you're going against somebody, you know, who spent all these years, you know, studying, and you know, they're the medical professional. What do I know? I'm just, you know, a mom who's, you know, caring about my child. But it is hard.
Okay, we've got a couple comments. Haley says, I love y'all's honesty so much. I'm so proud to be in community with y'all. I wish that Black mamas weren't the underdog in so many things, particularly breastfeeding. I might be white, but I love that I can share this with my Black friends, and the posts are coming from someone who represents them way more than I ever could. And we so appreciate you, Haley.
Yes,
and you know what? That's what I wanted to say too about the events that we're having. And I was thinking about this earlier, that I wanted to add this to our post for the breastfeeding party, that it's Black Breastfeeding Week, and it's about promoting breastfeeding in the Black community, but it's not just exclusive just for Black folks. We need the world.
And
we need
allies.
Yes, we need allies.
Yeah, and even the forum wasn't like that. The forum was welcome, you know.
Yeah, and there were other races.
It was.
So, Haley, we expect to see you on Friday. You know, we're going to have a photographer taking breastfeeding photos, and it'll be great. So, but yeah, well, thank you for saying that. And then we have a comment from Mystique who says, sometimes I see Black women nursing in public and I want to compliment or encourage them. Is that awkward? Absolutely not. We talked about that on Saturday as well. And that's another way to encourage or to help to normalize breastfeeding, is that moms need encouragement, because I know I've seen Lauren breastfeeding in public sometimes, and sometimes, most of the time, she's really, really bold about it. But sometimes I can tell that she's like, I don't know if somebody's gonna look at me funny or whatever. But if a stranger walked up to her and said, "Way to go," you know, gave her a thumbs up or whatever, I think that would be the extra encouragement that she needs. I know we did that. We were at a restaurant, and my daughter-in-law was nursing. My other granddaughter, Lauren, was nursing August, and right behind us, there was a table where a woman was nursing her child. And I took a picture of these three nursing women in this restaurant, because it was just an awesome thing to me. So definitely give the
thumbs up, the encouragement. Yeah, definitely. So do you ever help moms individually? I know that you mentioned some of your previous students.
Yes.
Do they ever call you like, okay, I'm still doing this?
Right.
And, you know.
I mean, one of my promises that after reading The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, my personal promise, and I told my husband this, I said, every time I find out someone's pregnant, I'm buying that book for them. I don't care where they are. I'm going to mail it to them. I'm going to do something, because it motivated me. And it also, it gave me the knowledge I needed to keep going, because I mean, it's just so amazing. And so, I'll help moms as much as I can. I've been really fortunate. Unlike you, I can pump pretty well. I can confuse that pump into thinking it's smart, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna do it, you know. So some of my sessions, I get 10 ounces, I
While she was getting 10 drops.
Right, exactly. So, you know, I've been very fortunate to give, to donate to.
Shannon Power says the best book ever.
Yes, it really is, because it just it melted breastfeeding into like a normal way of life. You know, breastfeeding goes hand in hand with co-sleeping, goes hand in hand with breastfeed or baby wearing. It's interwoven with so much of life. And man, once you know what breast milk can do, you're gonna take your kids to college with it. To go back, anytime I can. Unfortunately, many of my students, they didn't get to breastfeed as long as I don't even know if they desired. I don't know if it was also weird. I'm on Instagram DM and then like, hey, so how's breastfeeding going? You know, like, I don't know. So,
you kind of stalking them.
Right. And so I was like, you know, oh, you put a story up of you and your baby. Hey, so how y'all doing? You know? So some of them have been like more open to it. Others apprehensive. I have one that, so excited for her. She's due 2 days before I was due with my daughter to the year. So that's exciting. But, you know, I bought her the book, and actually going to see her tomorrow, but like, I just want to help as I can when I hear moms are struggling, if it's low supply, if it's something, if I have a way, like the woman I met in Ohio, I ended up giving her one of my lactation brownies and an essential oil vial that I brought with me. And I said, I don't need it. You need it, get your supply up, because her baby was 3 weeks old. And so anyway, if I have the ability to help a mother breastfeed, I will do it. And I don't care if we haven't talked since we saw each other physically, and it was 9th grade. If we are on Facebook and you're still talking to me, I'm still talking to you. I sent this book to one of my sister's best friends. I don't care. If I find out you're pregnant, I want you to have this book, because I want you to be fueled with that knowledge. I mean, like, guys, breastfeeding, like.
See, that's why I feel like I missed out.
And I mean, I just, I also think it does have a lot to do with bonding. I feel like, I'm going to call my brother out. He's a mama's boy. He is. And I think it started from the breast. I think that bond it's unimaginable, like even today, like I was nursing her, which almost made me late today, but she was just asleep, and I'm just like, it makes you emotional, because you're like, my body can do that. And so I want every mom to feel that, because there's a joy of bringing life, right? That is already amazing, but God extends that even longer with breastfeeding. Is that, I'm not, and I, once again, like, formula fed mom, you're okay, you are, but like, wow, that's how I feel about it. And so when I don't care where I see you, see at Costco, I've done this to a lady. I was like, oh, look at you, your baby. And they were baby wearing, and I was so excited because we had the same carrier. She was not as excited as she did. She's just like,
she was kind of backing up a little
right,
bit. Like,
looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm over here like, yeah, so that's how I feel about breastfeeding. I want to come alongside people, like, my longer plan is to become a lactation consultant, and I want to work specifically. Yeah, look, apparently I'm trying to do a lot of things with my life, so my list is getting longer than I expected. But I got time. I'm young. But one of the things is becoming a lactation consultant, but specifically like targeting women of color. And now that I as being a high school teacher, like even targeting young moms, because I feel like at that time too, you're more impressionable. And I'm not saying that to like disrespect, but you're listening to what your mom said. Like, my mom, with the love in her heart, said, do you want rice cereal? Give her rice cereal at 6 weeks. And, I had to educate her on that. I know she didn't mean any harm in that, but, research is showing new things. And so people come from a space of love 99% of the time. For sure. But let's get that education so we continue to do better.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So can you tell us about your other endeavors? I know that you
miss saying you have so many things going on. We want to hear about some of these other things.
Yeah.
So
do tell.
Right. Look, God's good. So this morning, as of this morning, I have a live blog.
Yay!
And I don't know. I'm apparently going to talk about stuff. So, and I mean, really, if anybody knows me on social media, it's pretty quiet on there. But I have always had a lot to say, and shout out to the husband. Sorry, you're jury duty. But from when we were married, he would say, you have a lot of insight on things. You should write a blog. And I'm that's stupid. Like, whatever. People don't want to hear from me. And then, like, when I would get that courage, something would happen. I'd be in a mom group or in a pre-mom group or just something, and then someone's attacking me, and it's like, well, I guess my opinion doesn't matter. And so over time, that just kept happening. I went to the Middle East, and I wrote a small blog for a little while, and I was like, this is really fun, but I don't have anything else to say, so whatever, I'm going to go over it. And then a lot of my friends, like, I'm kind of the first or the firstest of my friend groups to have kids, and so they're asking me questions. They're like, oh, I'm going to fly you in to be my doula or something like that.
You're the first in your group too.
Yeah.
And so, you're like educating them in a way, but, I would get asked the same questions. And so after a while, I thought, there's so much I want to say, but like, I want people to choose to read it.
Mm-hmm.
I want the information out there though, and I also want to write it in an eloquent way, because sometimes I'll get caught off guard. Like a friend will say, "Hey, what's that cream you use for your daughter's cradle cap?" Okay, well, let me remember and type it up and then send it to you. Instead, now, bam, here's a link. It's there. So the title is Black Anomaly. Obviously Black, and then anomaly, but mom. And shout out to Addie Fisher, because actually she's the reason it's Momaly. It was Anomaly first, but yeah, I'm really going to be writing from the perspective of being a mom.
That's really cute.
And the transition.
Hey,
yeah,
Addie.
She's amazing, and also watching my daughter, love her. But you know, it's going to come from that perspective of being Black and thinking about and how I transitioned into some of these spaces, and how I typically, and we've shared stories about this, of being the only Blacks in most of our spaces. And so I'm going to write mostly about that, my transition from, you know, working, and I'm not going to say that, but I'm working and then working at home and being with my daughter. And so that's the first one, blackmomaly.com. And yeah, that one's that. And then I
Do you
also
have are you on instant social media also?
I am. You can follow me if you want.
Well, I mean for your blog.
Oh no, I'm
Okay.
not actually.
Okay.
Because I don't know. We'll see what happens. If people want me to, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just gonna do baby steps and see, like, if it really gains momentum. Okay, we'll see what we'll see.
That's really cool. I've always wanted to be like a blogger.
Yeah.
I call myself starting my own blog. I think I wrote maybe like 4.
They were very good.
Yeah,
but
I look at it kind of like a diary, which I've never been good at keeping a diary. I would start like, dear diary, and then like a year later, nothing.
Oh yeah.
So it's like,
see, it's like I got words, so I can go.
Yeah, being consistent. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. My plan is hopefully to dish out something week by week, make it thematic probably. And another reason, like this week was just so important to me, was Black Breastfeeding Week. So I was like, I'm going to get it off the ground. And so I'm probably going to write more this week just to kind of talk about my Black breastfeeding journey.
Let me just say, Addie said, "Hey y'all, Samara watched for a second and pointed to you."
Oh,
Samara's her daughter.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh yeah. So the next one is a group, a mom group, and it's really called,
excited for.
Yes, and it's called Black Moms Meet DFW. There is a Facebook page for it, so you go like it. We already have our first event, September 18th, here at Crunchy Boutique. And yeah, this one definitely got started out of a racist encounter.
And it's important. It's important to, as we talked about the reason for Black Breastfeeding Week, I think it's important for people to understand the reason that these groups are formed that say Black women do breastfeed, Black women do cloth diaper, Black women meet. What is it?
Yeah, Black Moms Meet.
Why is it necessary? And tell a little bit about what happened.
Yeah. So, you know, after having my daughter, boy, you know, like I said, I worked 60 plus hours a week. I was go. I'm taking care of 120 kids. I'm leading things. I'm, you know, traveling. I was doing a lot. And when I started staying at home, I was like, well, crap, it's just me and her. You're laying there and we're doing tummy time, and I've got classical music on, and I'm telling you about my day, and it's mundane, and I'm like, what did I do? So, you know, like I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety because I would just, you know, I would get compulsive over small little things, and I started realizing I need a mom group. I need to do stuff. I need to get out of the house. And so started doing that, and I was a part of a group. I still am. And one of the topics, or, you know, it wasn't even a topic. I'll say, like, they had a format, but we kind of went sidebar. And so there was pockets of moms like talking and stuff. And the Iname, is that how you say her name? Iname, however you say her name. She, the incident that happened, I don't even remember now, a year or two ago, got brought up, and I was the only Black person. The conversation went around the white moms, and so.
And this was in person, not on the group.
This was in person, and so our kids are playing, and 3 of them are talking, and 2 of them kind of looked at me to answer. I knew nothing about the situation at that point, but some of the comments that were made already made me feel uncomfortable, and I was unsure, because I like to respond with evidence. I like to get my research on. I like to do whatever I got to do. And unfortunately, I didn't have anything, and they were looking to me to answer. And I felt uncomfortable and a little off. And so I thought, okay, this is a little much for me. And some of the things that were said were not, I don't think they were thoughtful. That's all I'll say. I don't think they were thoughtful. And so I'm definitely one, I want to educate, offensive things happen all the time. But I'm going
and a lot of times they're
educate
innocent.
them. Yes, exactly. And that's very important to note, is that it is innocent. So the 3 women, I ended up individually talking with each one of them and the leader and saying, look, I feel it's my responsibility as being the only Black person in that conversation to acknowledge what happened and also to give you the information and also look at this blog, read what they have to say. And if you want, I sent this over text to most of them. And then I said, if you want, let's get on the phone and let's talk it out. No disrespect. I purely want education. I want us to have constructive conversations.
And you want a resolution.
Exactly. And so that's always, it's been a goal. Most everyone understood, everyone, okay, well, did I offend you? What happened? I have a question about this. I have a question about that. Cool. I get to, first one, great. Second one, great. Third one, whoa. So it becomes a personal attack on me and my demeanor. This woman did not know me, but obviously just went through my Facebook and started making personal attacks at what little I had on there. And, I had to go to the leader, and the leader was respectful of it and understood, okay, well, we'll try and figure it out. It's been months since that happened. But in that moment, I realized that even when I was there and even going back, it felt uncomfortable. I've networked. I've, across the Metroplex. I've worked with many prestigious companies around here. And one thing that I'm always, my hair is done, y'all. My makeup is done. And I'm always thinking about how I can prove myself as a Black person. And
how you can represent.
How I can represent. I'm the one that's going to speak for the millions of us. And I didn't want to have to do that in a mom group, because I had to share, I'm going through postpartum anxiety. I don't know what the crap I'm doing. God said have a baby, and I did. And, can we talk through that? What's going on? I don't know how to pick out clothes. Y'all, it's great.
It's so funny.
But, that, those are things that I wanted to have a raw conversation. I wanted to lay back and be like, y'all, you know what, and just
be comfortable.
Be comfortable. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't. And after that incident, I was like, well, okay, I guess I need to have a space. I guess I need I guess I need something like that. So I found these Black mom
to clarify
groups.
that a little bit more, because I know you purposely don't want to go into too much detail, but the point of the matter is that somebody offended you, and rather than the person listening to how you were offended and to try to understand, they just immediately said, I did not offend you, and they dismissed you, didn't want to talk to you ever again, just wanted to completely cut off communications with you just because you brought the matter to their attention.
Exactly.
And this is not isolated. It happens all the time in Facebook groups.
And I think that's why it can be so hard. I actually wrote about this. It's an experience happened to me in college. And I was in a classroom, the only Black person in the class. And we were talking about racism and how I went to a Christian university, racism and how it relates to Christianity. And everybody in the room said that racism didn't exist. It was done with. It was over. It was a thing of the past and all that. And I'm sitting in the classroom like, oh my God. But I sat through that entire hour and a half silent, because you never want to make anybody else uncomfortable. You never want to be that one. Because I didn't want what happened to you to happen to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because
so
you become the angry Black woman.
Yes, because you're dismissed so quickly. Well, why does your opinion matter? Mine does. I know this in my heart. I know this. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. Can you reflect on where your position is? And, that's the goal of Black Moms Meet, is one, it's just for Black moms. I had somebody already oh, I want to go, but I'm not Black. And it's like, we're going to have an ally night, and I've said this before, is that, there's going to be a space where I do want the majority race to come and speak and discuss. But at the same time, we meet somewhere where we don't feel like we're going to be, offensive to someone, or we can say what we want and maybe get loud about it and that'd be okay. Or a space where we don't have to worry
you know, okay, are they talking about Black people, or it's like, just, you don't have to be uncomfortable.
Right.
That's, just being,
the guard's down.
Yeah, your guard is down and you're just relaxed,
Yes.
which is so hard to be relaxed as a mom, period.
Right.
Because the other part about it is that you're always thinking about, like you said, representing,
Mhm.
and it's funny because when we are in a group and it's just one or two of us, we always feel like we're representing the entire race.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can't say this, I can't do that, or am I embarrassing my folks? Am I embarrassing my
Right,
people?
yeah.
Is my grandmother rolling over in her grave?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've had people like, as I'm waiting for an airplane, like, well, can you tell me about the whole Trayvon Martin thing? And and the people will randomly, and sometimes I'm like, okay, all right, I'll do it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to. Can you just leave me alone? Can I just sit here and wait on the plane? Like,
Lauren and I went to a meeting
Mhm.
several months ago now, and a lady in the group said, a white lady in the group, she said, so, is it Black or is it African American?
Oh, right.
Yeah. which was really funny, but
Yeah.
it was still a conversation that needed to be
Yes,
had.
It was,
And
but
conversations like that
Yeah.
only happen when people, can feel comfortable.
Yes.
And we had already started talking about race and all of that, so that's how those barriers were broken down.
Mhm.
But that was pretty
it was
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like, I really don't represent the entire race. I'm not going to tell you about me. You can call me Black if you want to, and I'm fine with it.
Right. Right. So true.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, we're coming to the last 10 minutes,
Which is so hard to believe.
Yeah,
I know.
the hour is like that. I thought 2 hours went by fast, but definitely an hour goes by, obviously, even faster. But before we go, can you share some of the coolest, funniest, or most unusual moments you've experienced regarding breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding. Give us a funny
Yeah.
breastfeeding story.
And I have one if you don't.
We'll listen to yours too.
Right. So the first one happened, well, she was born at the end of October, and so right into the holiday season, and I always knew I would be the corny mom that would have something like the matching pajamas for Christmas. And so
I just did.
She's a corny
Yeah.
mom too.
welcome. Yes, we're in this. But what happened? It was Black Wednesday, because Black Friday is no longer Black Friday. It's like the whole Black
Yeah.
November, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was the day before Thanksgiving, and Target had already had their Black Friday deals up for Red Card members. And so I said, oh, perfect. I'm going to go get all of our pajamas and stuff.
Mhm.
And so at this point, you're still new into the breastfeeding relationship. And so, she's small and young, and I don't have the smallest chest. So I'm having it's a moment, you know? And I mean, anybody knows it's a moment at the beginning. It's just we got to be in the right space.
Mhm.
So before I went into any stores, I would always breastfeed in the car before I got in. Just because it was just easier. If she's already fed, then I have a good 45 minutes and I'm not interrupted.
I can relate, yeah.
Right. So, it wasn't shameful, but at that point I was still weary of breastfeeding in public.
Mhm.
So ended up, we were 5 minutes from a Target. So I was like, I don't need to feed her, because I just need to go in, get out, because it was one onesie that was left. That was it. This was the one. It was the only size and a 100-mile radius. I couldn't order it online. So I was like, I got to go now. So I get her in the car, we go, and I don't feed her when we get to Target. I'm like, let's go in. Okay, we get in. What does she want? She wants to eat.
Of course.
I'm like, okay, that's cool. Whatever. All right, fine. I'm not going back to the car because it's cold. So let's keep going. But where am I going to feed? Because I didn't know where. I've never figured out this stuff when you're going into stores and well, do they have a nursing room and all that? And I mean, she's wailing, and I'm embarrassed, obviously. I'm 3 weeks deep into motherhood. So it's like, oh my God, she's crying. And and so I'm in a hot sweat. She's in a hot sweat because I'm baby wearing her. And, this is my second time wearing this baby Catan thing. And so, it has all these maneuvers. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get there. So we go to the baby area, and, Target has these high displays with nursing chairs and cribs and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, this is where we're going to. So she's still crying. I'm trying to take the Catan off of me. I'm not in a breastfeeding friendly shirt or anything. So I'm trying to take it off, and I take that one off, and then I have a cami, and so I'm pulling it down, and then finally she's just on. And as soon as I get her on, there's a whole training of Target employees. And so here I am, and any mom knows your chest is rather huge at the beginning. And so I'm out on their display. My bag is like sprawled open because I was like, I need a cover. Then the cover fell off because she's hot. And so they're just walking by, and I'm sitting here like, Lord, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I think in the state of Texas, you're allowed to breastfeed anywhere.
They won't arrest me.
They can't arrest me, but they're like standing right here in front of me. And so I'm just looking at her, and I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine. We're gonna be fine. And thankfully, nobody said anything. But that was one of the moments where I was like, okay, well.
Hashtag normalized breastfeeding.
Right. Like everything was out. No. So
that's funny.
That really just relinquished me of ever caring. I was like, whatever, I can breastfeed anywhere now. Then, well, the second one, where were we? Oh, we were on our way to Houston, or I don't know. We were on our way down south. And if you're in Texas, you know Buc-ee's. And so that's the spot to go and stay. Or to, get your snacks, use the restroom and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, surely they have the cleanest restrooms, the most efficient restrooms I've ever seen in my life. They have a nursing room. They don't. So I'm going through their like shopping area, and I'm looking around like, okay, well, there's no benches. There's nowhere to sit. And so finally I see a place, and there's like all of these tumblers on it. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I push them over, and I start feeding her. And this employee comes up to me and is like, ma'am, we're going to need this bench.
For what?
Exactly. So Ryan and I are looking at each other, and I said, ma'am, in the state of Texas, I'm allowed to breastfeed anywhere I want. And so do you have somewhere else I can breastfeed?
And did you get one of these?
Right, like, I was holding her, so I couldn't do it, but I was ready. I was ready. But I'm looking at her, and I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. And she's like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just going to use this side of the bench. I didn't mean to move you anywhere. I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, as I'm doing this, like, I'm like, Samara's like coming off, and so she's getting sprayed, and then she's like, I don't want to eat anymore. And I'm like, cool, I just made this huge statement, all for us to walk away just looking like, okay, thanks. So yeah, I'm going to tell those at our graduation.
Okay, before you tell your funny story, Addie wants to know the name of the book again.
Oh, okay. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. It's by the La Leche League International, I believe. And it's like, there's so many different editions. Just get the cheapest one. It'll be fine. I know the Grand Prairie Library does have it. And they don't have it as an ebook, but that's okay. Yeah, The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. Yeah.
Got it. What's your funny story?
Okay, I'm gonna speed it up, give it a short version. But anyway, August was about 4 months old, and we went to California. My cousin was getting married, and I was the maid of honor and all that. So we had been in California for about 4 days at this point, and I was supposed to be pumping every day to work my way up to get one bottle. So, I can't pump one bottle for the wedding. And I kept putting it off, like, okay, well, I'll just pump the night before. I'll just, do whatever. So the day of the wedding, I know I need 4 ounces. No, I have 0 ounces.
Oh, okay.
So the day of, in the morning, and I don't have my pump with me, so I'm hand expressing, which surprisingly I get more milk hand expressing, but still drops.
Right.
So in the morning, my husband DeAndre sleeps. So I'm hand expressing. And if you ever hand express, I mean, it's like milking a cow literally, but it's way slower. And my hand is getting tired. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm only at half an ounce. I still have 3.5 more minutes to go. So I wake DeAndre up. I'm like, you're going to have to hand express. You have to milk me.
Yes.
You are going to have to do it.
Oh, sweet
my
husband.
hand is just
wow.
and everything.
You didn't tell him to milk you.
I did.
Yes.
So
that's real love.
There we are in the room, and I'm doing like this, and he's milking me, literally like a cow. I was like, I've never connected more with Bessie in that moment.
Right. I feel your pain, girl.
Oh my God,
your husband.
Yeah. But luckily, I did get to the 4 ounces. But in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. all for
you
one
learn,
bottle.
right? You learn no procrastination, huh?
That is too funny.
But we've reached the end of the show. Well, we don't want to thank you. Definitely want to thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like you've, sprinkled a lot of jewels and all that. Very interesting to hear about your journey with the lip and tongue tie, and just so happy that you guys are still at it, 10 months strong.
Yay!
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, 10 months strong and counting. Which is amazing. So yes, we definitely want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back.
So fun. Okay. I have plenty to say, obviously.
Yeah. But just to remind you, we will still have our show every Monday, but this time it will be from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. instead of from 1 to 3 p.m. And if you want to catch the podcast later, be sure to look it up on PodBean, and we will put our specific link in the comments of the video so you can check that out. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.